All right, my number one is Madam Web. And the reason for that is that, like, it's kind of Madam Web and its audience. This is kind of my number one. Because like nobody expected anything great from Sony. But this is even worse than all its peers. This is not a movie. This is just scraps from the rubbish bin, pasted together and released in cinemas. People paid $100 million to see it. That means somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 million people saw this and said, yeah, I want to see this. I want to pay money for this. There's just too many people who went to see this and said, yeah, this is fine. I think too few people recognized just how broken this movie is and how it should never have been released. And it's not just because it's a bad movie. It's not just how it treats the character or how unnecessary it is or anything like that. It's just not a functioning movie. And for something like that to make $100 million just because of IP is an indictment of the audience. Leave your comments below. And we cannot expect these companies to do anything else as long as stuff like this happens. Right? There were a few movies like Borderlands that were just outright rejected. I think Crow was the same, where people just didn't go. And if any movie in this year should have gotten that treatment, should have been Madam Web.
I'm just surprised that like the footprint it left on the culture. Like everyone quotes Madam Web whenever they're talking about a terrible movie. It's funny. Do you see what the Sony CEO said? I think he said something about he mentioned Craven. I think he mentioned Madam Web as well. He said he doesn't know why Madam Web flopped in box office. I was like, bro, the fact that you just said that shows why you shouldn't be CEO of Sony. I can see why your movies are flopping now.
I think it's important to realize that he's not talking to us. He's talking to the shareholders. He's essentially trying to do damage control. He's trying to say, no, we are not actually bad at our jobs. And anybody who's ever done bad work and has had to talk to their boss about this knows how to spin that, right? Like, this is what he's doing. This is not like an honest conversation about how these are actually good movies. This is about damage control to shareholders. That's what this is.
But I'm going to lump in all the Sony movies into one. So we're chucking Venom: The Last Dance and we're putting Craven in here as well. They're all guilty by association. Again, this is just Sony. It feels like putting out movies for these characters to keep the rights of sort of the Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, as opposed to sort of attempting to put any type of like care or any type of like love into the sort of the stories they're trying to tell. Everything just seems so hollow in what they're doing. There isn't much thought put into sort of developing compelling and interesting characters in this. Nothing to it at all. So, yeah, my number one is Sony as a whole. They're just shit. Pretty much.
Yeah, I think it's just remarkable how unforced an error that is. Because then Penguin comes along and just does a show about a villain and not even one of the popular ones, right? Like Penguin is nowhere near the top of popular Batman villains. And they just have an idea and they tell a story where he's actually a villain. And because it focuses on character, people love it. And imagine if they'd given the Penguin treatment to like a minor Spider-Man villains for the last, 4 years, 5 years? Imagine what could have been.
Yeah, because like a lot of these characters have like interesting things about them,
and these companies don't understand that the whole appeal of the superhero movie is the characters. Like people really care about the characters that have kind of floated to the top. There's hundreds and hundreds of superhero characters and villains and whatever that never worked out and that have been forgotten and appeared in one issue in the 70s or whatever. But the ones you know are the ones that have a personality and that have a story and that have something that appeals to people. And then these companies pay for the rights to these characters and then strip away everything that's unique and appealing about these characters and then do something else. And I'll never understand that. And like the Sonyverse is like the ultimate expression of that.
And that's what the superhero genre was doing really well at the start. And I think that's where like the frustrations come from in the last couple of superhero movies that we've been getting, is that they found an archetype that worked for these characters where they're kind of like quippy and told too many jokes and this and any other. And then every character we've sort of been getting has been doing the same things, when again, the reason we care about like Iron Man and Spider-Man and Captain America is because of their unique characters and their unique flaws and sort of like the unique stories that they were going through, essentially.
Yeah. I like the superhero movie genre, and I do hope that Superman, well as the others that are coming out next year, are kind of like a reset button or the start of a new era or something like that. But I've decided to not get too invested in it and just see what they do, and if I like what they do, then that's great.